Hello, in this video we'll be covering how to connect search pages in Webflow in the process for that. So the first step is always creating the page in Webflow and the corresponding backend page in Tangram. So within Webflow you'll create a new page by clicking the plus new page button and designing the page as you see fit. And then in Tangram that would involve going to the Pages tab within the admin account, which is underneath the wrench icon, it's the first tab, and click a plus new page if you don't already have a corresponding page for the page you want to connect. And in this case, we will be connecting a listing search page, so like the service search page. Once you have the front end page created and the back end page created, you want to make sure that all of the tabs are filled out in the back end of Tangram. So we need to get the HTML template URL. What does that mean? It's the URL of the page you want to connect from Webflow. So in Webflow, we would get that URL by clicking the publish button while being on the page we want to connect and clicking the little arrow to copy the live version or URL of the page. Then we would paste it into that HTML template URL field. Once we have that, we would hit save, and we would define the sections and the data we want to send to the page on Webflow. So from Tangram, there's two sections that you need to define on search pages, the filter section and the tile section. On listing search pages, the filter section will probably have listing data, and that's it. So you just select under the plus new button on the pushed field groups tab for that section which listings you want to be able to filter, and under the push filters tab you'd select which drop-down values you want to automatically pull in filters from. So in this case, maybe the category field we want to be a filter on the search page, as is shown here. We would pop open that drop-down and we could connect the category fields and pull them automatically from Tangram if we have the attribute TG tag filter tag value and the friendly field ID connected there. But the important part is that you have a section around all of the places you're pulling in filter values with the attribute TG section ID and the ID of the section that you're connecting. So if we go to the services search page, the section tab, you can copy that TG section listing filters ID and paste it on the div for the TG section ID, which is a div around all of the filter value information you want to pull in. Just basically around all the filters on the page. And one caveat, one little quirk that you have to include is you have to define an import type within all sections on Tangram. And even though we're not pulling in listing data or user data, just filter data, just create a div inside of that filter section where you define the import type that is opposite to the type of page you're working on. So it's a little bit confusing, but in this case, we're connecting a listing search page. So the import type we'll need to put inside of the service filters section would be a user, TG import type user information. It needs to be defined somewhere. So we just put it on an empty div and hide that div. And by put it on, I mean connect the attribute TG tag import type equals user and just hide it. So this is a listing search page, so we have to define TG import type equals user inside of the filters section. Now, if this was a user search page, this would be TG import type equals listing. So just a little quirk, probably the most confusing part about connecting the search page in Tangram, but an important piece to mention nonetheless for now. Now the second section, that represents the tile information here. And by tile, I mean this little information of listings that will be copy and pasted and duplicated for every listing that shows up on the site. So we refer to this that I'm copy and pasting as the listing tile. And as long as you have the section as a div defined somewhere around that grid of listings and the attribute TG section ID equals the service tile ID, which we can copy from here and paste in there, and then have the import type defined somewhere within that section ID div, and this would be listing information, so we want to define TG import type listing inside of the service tile section, and the TG import type equals listing attribute would be added here on the bottom right hand side of the screen. That allows us to pull in listing data inside of that TG import type equals listing wrapper. So now we can attach TG attribute equals like photo or price or whatever field you want connected about the listing inside of there. Please keep in mind if you do have user info inside of the listing, the service tile section inside of the listing import type, you have to have TG import type equals user wrapped directly around any user information. So if we're connecting the profile picture here, we need to have TG import type equals user wrapped around that element to let Tangram know it's user information we're pulling in, not listing information, because it's already inside of a TG import type equals listing container. And just to reiterate, everything inside of the TG import type equals listing will be duplicated for every listing that is detected on the search page. And lastly, what types of information do we send to that service listing tile section, and how do we determine that? You'd click Manage, define the field groups by looking at your design and saying, what types of information do we want inside of this tile section? It looks like there's some listing info and also some user info, like the profile picture. So we would need to connect one-on-one services for this service listing page and also provider info because we need their avatar or profile picture. And then we would push the individual fields we want to connect inside of that tile section, like the title, the photo, the avatar, maybe any tags, and we define that using the plus new button. And as long as all of the pages are created, both the front end page in Webflow, which is this page, the back end page in Tangram for the search services page, which is right here, and you have all of the links set, like the Webflow link here. You have the sections defined, the two sections, filters and the tile section. And then you have inside of each section the fields defined of what data you want to send or filters to each section and the field groups. The last thing you have to do is from the basic info tab you want, or not the basic info tab, the search pages tab, you can find the friendly route for that page, which is the Tangram version of that page, which is currently just your subdomain /search tax services, and you need to set that in any of the tabs where you want to link to the search page. So this friendly route is the thing you want linked in all the nav bars or across your site on pages. On the home page, if you want a button to send people to the marketplace or search services page, this would be the URL right here that you want to send them to.